All right, folks, let's get to the meat of it. I want to talk, by the way, thank you. Some people have tipped and someone super chatted. I will give you full shout outs at the end of the show. As always, shout outs come and near the second half of the podcast. What I'd like to do is get into the meat of what I want to talk about today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am now 40 hours in. Someone just said, why are my pants blue? Because these are my Zelda Breath of the Wild pants. Because I'm a fan of goddamn Zelda, and I wear Zelda pants. See? So you all made fun of me. You made fun of me, a 41-year-old gamer on TikTok, and you said I'm a horrible gamer because I don't understand the lightning mechanic of Zelda. But I'm a fan. I have Zelda pants. Do you have Zelda pants? I didn't think so. You don't have Zelda pants. You don't have the right to say that my issues with the lightning are invalid because you're not wearing Zelda pants. I'm insulated from your bullshit because I wear Zelda pants. You see? Anyway, off. So, I am officially, as of now, 40 hours into Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, what's funny is everyone told me the game's 100 hours long, yet, according to people watching the playthrough, they're like, so here's the deal. You have one major dungeon left, the Gerudo Desert Dungeon, which will take a while to do because, like all these major dungeons, you have like a storyline around it before you can even access the dungeon, and then you have the dungeon itself. So I'm assuming probably 4 more hours there, maybe to get through the Gerudo area. Then apparently, after I wrap up that dungeon, there's one final area of the game that will open up, and that's kind of the finale. So even if you say that finale is another 4 hours, I mean, that's about 48 hours, I'm done with the game. All right? So then where does the 100 hours come in? Well, 100 hours comes in because this game has such an insane amount of content in it that if you actually have the time to fully explore and extrapolate and do everything that's in the game, all right, you basically could spend 100 hours in it, and you could, you know, have a lot of meaningful time in that. But for me, someone who I've been balancing this game with other playthroughs, as you know, and someone who I knew this month of June was going to be incredibly hectic for new releases between Street Fighter 6, which was going to take up a ton of my time, and Diablo, which was going to take up some of my time, and now with Final Fantasy 16 out, I knew I was not going to be able to really be focused on Zelda. I even told you guys when I started with Zelda last month, I warned everyone. I said, for a game that everyone is describing as being an insanely lengthy and insanely content-heavy game, you have to understand that there's other things coming out that are going to end up being priority. First of all, just to be honest, I don't have a mainstream Nintendo viewer base. I don't. I really don't. The people who like to watch people who are Nintendo gamers aren't coming to DSP Gaming to watch me play this game, right? They're just not. In fact, when I play Nintendo games, I find it's more of a niche style playthrough where I'll get a certain group of my viewers, but not all of them. And a lot of people, for some reason, just don't like Nintendo games and always skip whenever I play. Even Nintendo games that I'm absolutely loving every aspect of, like Super Mario Odyssey. People would tell me, oh, you're wrong, it's not that good, and why are you playing this kiddie game? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Nintendo games are not kiddie games. Some people still very, very unfairly and erroneously categorize all Nintendo games as kiddie games and don't want to watch me play them for some odd reason. It's so weird because I love first-party Nintendo games. I just don't get that kind of prejudice against them. It's kind of irrational in my opinion. But anyway, you know, knowing well that I don't have a mainstream viewer base of Nintendo gamers, and that if I play Zelda, it's going to end up being a game that's going to be a late night chill stream. There's no way this could continue to be a daytime stream because it's not going to get mainstream style support. You know what I'm saying? I very well knew what was going to happen, that this month, as soon as the new releases hit, Zelda was going to take a backseat. Zelda was going to get played a lot less. I was probably going to have to streamline my playthrough to focus in on the more important things in the game. And therefore, there was no way my playthrough was going to be 100 hours long, and I wasn't going to be able to please those who are kind of the Nintendo purists, those who demand that you do things in a certain way and say if you don't, you've done it wrong. And I really feel like, sadly, that's kind of what's happened with this playthrough, because allow me to give you to cover both sides of the coin here. If you actually feel that someone playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom in a 100-hour playthrough is the way to play it, and if someone's only playing through it 40 hours and they're a month into the game and barely making progress and crawling along, and then along the way complaining about certain game mechanics, you may be pretty upset. And this thing is, I know for a fact that there's a group of people that that's the case, where they're watching my playthrough and they're like, dude, he's not taking his time with the game. He's skipping all of this content that he's coming up against and just running right by it. It seems like he's really rushing through. What's funny is I want you to understand what I just said. I'm 40 hours into the game. I probably still arguably have another 8 to 10 hours if I even just want to just go right to the end and beat it. So you're talking a 48 to 50 hour playthrough, and people are complaining that I'm rushing through it. Does that not really make sense from, if you're not playing the game, all right? From an outsider's perspective, just listen to that. He's almost 50 hours into the game, and people are saying he's rushing through it. Do you see? Do you see the dichotomy there? Do you see the disconnect? Any other game, if you said, wow, someone's 58 hours or 48 hours or something into the game, wow, they really must be enjoying their game if they sunk that much time and effort into the playthrough. But for Zelda, it's like, that's not nearly enough. You should have done way more. And it's like, what? Like, why? Just because it's Zelda? Just because it's Nintendo? I don't get that. Because if the name Zelda wasn't in the title, I feel like I wouldn't be getting that criticism for the playthrough. It would be like, wow, you know, he's spending a lot of time on this. This is good. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I really do feel that way about the game. Now, here's the deal, and I'm going to say this again. I like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I certainly wouldn't still be playing it, and I wouldn't be having it in my rotation if I didn't like it, okay? But there's certain things I really like about it. There's some things I kind of like about it, and then there's some things that I really feel like are just, you know, not done well, and I've been very vocal about this, trying to be fair with the game and, you know, giving you my honest perspective. And I'm well aware that most people probably don't agree with me, and there's a couple reasons. Number one, because Nintendo has that fan base of people that kind of feel like Nintendo can do no wrong, and I disagree. Although I'm certainly not saying that's everyone, there certainly seems to be this Nintendo defense force that always comes out whenever you criticize a Nintendo game, fairly or not. It really doesn't matter. What ends up happening is you get people who jump down your throat, right? Oh my God, how dare you criticize this game because it's first party Nintendo. Obviously it's a masterpiece, and God forbid that you would say a single thing bad about it. You're just in the wrong no matter what. Even if it's constructive criticism, it doesn't matter, right? And that's kind of ridiculous in my opinion. Now, let's talk about my Zelda Tears of the Kingdom playthrough and what I've liked about the game and what I don't like about the game. I feel like a lot of things that for some people are positives, sadly can be negatives for others, and I feel like a lot of things that started off strong can actually bite this game in the butt, all right? First of all, one of the things that I've described when I've described Tears of the Kingdom is I said the game is bloated, okay? I think some people have misunderstood what I mean by that, all right? When I say the game is bloated, what I mean is the game has an incredible amount of content, okay? Now, here's the thing. If you're sitting there and you feel like all of that insane amount of content is meaningful, then you wouldn't feel bloat. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have a meal that's a giant meal, but if everything there is absolutely delicious and nothing is over too much in one direction, you have a well-balanced meal. It could feel like you had an amazing meal and you could still be full but not bloated, right? I hate to say it, I don't feel that way with Tears of the Kingdom. I do feel like the game suffers very much from bloat because it's coming from a perspective of someone who's a super fan of Zelda, and in particular, someone who's a super fan of Breath of the Wild, all right? So what do I mean by that, all right? Well, first of all, the game has an incredible amount of content no matter where you go or what you do. There's new locations, new camps, new combat challenges, new dungeons to find, new challenge dungeons with puzzles. Small enemies, giant enemies, secrets to be found, traversal to be had. There's story elements with the Tears of the Dragon, and there's non-story elements with completely optional side quests with characters that have their own little side stories that can add to the game. I mean, just to give you some perspective on some of the stuff in the game, there's horse travel, but you don't ever need it, but there's horse travel. There's all this building and mechanics with the physics of, you know, building vehicles and doing all of that. You literally don't ever need it, but it's in there if you want to do it, you see? So for someone who's sitting down and saying, all right, I literally have unlimited time, unlimited resources, I can just sit here and enjoy this game at face value for what it is. This might be an insane masterpiece and the best game that you've ever played. And that's fine. And I respect that opinion. I really do. Because the tools are there to say that this game is absolutely amazing. But when you make a video game and when you play a video game, not everyone is in the same perspective. Not everyone has said unlimited time, unlimited resources, and the ability to just sit there at endless lengths and enjoy a game. Some people actually want some guidance. Some people want to know what's the important thing to do and what's not. Some people want to say, all right, do I need to bother to learn this incredibly intricate gameplay mechanic of building this vehicle painstakingly and understanding all the physics of the game and understanding the building mechanics and the battery mechanics of the game and all of this? Do I need to drive a giant mech across the battlefield destroying everything in my path? Or can I just walk from point A to point B and do a quest? Tears of the Kingdom essentially does absolutely nothing whatsoever to explain the system to you. Like, it's everything's there, and you can either take as much time as you want to mess with it and learn it, or you can completely ignore it. Now, if you take the time to mess with it and learn it, you'll probably have a better time with the game. If you're building unique vehicles to traverse areas and you're finding these cool extra optional stuff, and now you have better armor that you found because you explored more, and wow, you found the great fairies, so now you can upgrade your armor, and now your armor's better, and you found better items to combine to make really good weapons, and now there's optional bosses in the game. You can take on the optional bosses because you have the better equipment and all that. So you're getting the full experience of the game if you are taking your absolute time with it. But not everyone can do that. And what I'm finding with this game is that it does an absolute great job of creating a robust, complex, content-filled open world system, and it does an absolutely terrible job of doing any kind of semblance of pacing, any kind of semblance of guidance, or, for example, for someone who maybe just wanted to play a Zelda game and enjoy a Zelda game, it does a poor job at that. Because in reality, Tears of the Kingdom really isn't a Zelda game. It's a different animal entirely. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. Actually, quite the opposite. I actually feel that if you are an open world gamer, and this is the game you sit down with to take your time with in 2023, and you ignore all the other white noise around you, this is probably your game of the year because of the way that it's laid out and the incredible amount of content and things like that. But not everyone does that. Not everyone is of the mindset that I'm just sitting down just to play Zelda Tears of the Kingdom this year. It's like, well, Zelda's just one thing I'm doing this year amongst many other things, and I'd like to enjoy a Zelda game. I actually feel like the game fails in that regard. Just to give you some perspective, I actually feel like Breath of the Wild does it better. And here's why. In Breath of the Wild, everything is new. It's a brand new world. It's the first time you're experiencing any of this. Not to say that there aren't connections and throwbacks to other Zelda games. There totally are. But the first time you walk into, say, Hateno Village, and all of a sudden you're talking with the townspeople, and you realize this village is interesting, and there's quest lines there you need to do. You meet Pura for the first time, and the scientist group, and you're doing questing for them. And later on, you have a house that's your own and stuff like that. That feels really, 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 really meaningful to you, right? It's a really important part of the game. In this game, when you walk into Hateno Village, it's like, oh, it's that village from the first game. Are there a couple side quests? Yeah, you could do a side quest to color your clothes or whatever. Okay. Do you need to do anything in the town? Absolutely not. It's just there as a reference to the first game and can be completely skipped and adds nothing. Like, literally, you can skip the whole town and there's nothing to it. You walk into Kakariko Village. Again, another village. There was major plot developments in the first game. It was a big focus of the plot there with Impa and, you know, and the townspeople and how that tied into the world of Breath of the Wild and the calamity and everything going on. And here you walk in there, no one's even there. It's like the leader's missing, not there. You talk to half the people won't even let you go through half the, oh, we were told not to let you up there because there's ruins. Don't even go there. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like they wanted to make a sequel, but when they did, they didn't have use for half the stuff from the first game. So why did they bother making the sequel? That's bloat. When you have content that's, oh, look, here's a reference to the first game. By the way, it has no meaning in this one. Then what was the point? And the answer is there is none. There's no meaning to half the stuff in the game. It's just there as a reference point to the first, but you could have skipped the first and just played this one, to which case half the stuff you encounter, you'll be like, what is this? Like, what? I don't even understand what this crap is. Like, why does Hateno Village exist? There's no real major quest lines there. There's no real ties to the plot. Why is it even in the game? And why does it look so significant? Because it was significant in the first game, and they just have it as like fan service reference to the first game. I really honestly feel like if this game was its own standalone game and was not a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, it would be better. Why? Because then everything you do would feel meaningful and a first-time discovery, you know? And as neat as it is to rediscover certain areas, and maybe in this case they have different meaning, like for example, you go to the Zora village, and in the first game it had this one plot line going for it, and in this game it's a completely different plot line that's kind of interesting. But at the same time, it's the same thing you did in the first game, you know what I mean? Like, it does lose some of its meaning. I don't understand why this needed to be a direct sequel, especially because it seems like that entire plot line of the Calamity from Breath of the Wild has been completely glossed over as if it never mattered. In which case, the whole first game was a waste of your time. It really feels that way. The whole beginning plot of this game is basically saying the Calamity plotline didn't matter. Even if it happened or didn't, erase it from memory, because here's a whole new plotline going on, superfluous outside of the realm of the Calamity plotline. Like, all that big buildup in the first game saying the Calamity is the end of this world and everything, we've got to stop it. You stopped it. Oh, it doesn't matter because now another thing is here anyway that supersedes it. So then what was the point of the whole first game? There was none. I do feel like in their rush to make a new Zelda game, because Breath of the Wild did so well and they wanted to capitalize on that, they sadly made a game that doesn't feel nearly as full of wonder as Breath of the Wild did. Now listen, they added sky floating islands and they added underground exploration. Great, good for you. And yeah, there's some interesting stuff up there with puzzles and the like, but never once in this playthrough yet have I really felt that feeling of wonderment and discovery like I did in Breath of the Wild, first discovering things like, oh, the Lost Woods. Ooh, the floating labyrinth in the sky. That's a whole optional puzzle that's really interesting because I don't know what it is and if it leads to anything good. Oh my god, I'm climbing Death Mountain and there's a giant salamander creature on it that's actually a boss dungeon that we're going to do. Like, you don't feel that in the game. You just don't. It's kind of like I already was in this world. I already know where everything is. And the other thing, too, I hate this whole premise of we played a whole game in this fucking world, you know, an 80-hour playthrough. Now we're back for the sequel. Everything's forgotten. Oh, your map has been reset. Everything's done. Fuck you. Spent all that time in the first game. Now I got to go through this whole fucking game and remap everything again? Right? Like, geez, thanks a lot. I really feel like my time was well used in the first one. Like I said, maybe if it wasn't reusing the same map again, it would feel better because then it would make sense. But if this was, oh, by the way, screw off, now go remap the whole world again. Dude, I already did that in the first one. I gotta do it again? So here's the thing. Again, I'm not saying the game's bad at all, but man, it feels bloated. It feels like they were really going for, let's throw in the absolute most amount of content we possibly can throw at you in one video game, but never really directing you towards feeling what's meaningful. Now, not to say that the game doesn't say, hey, here's the 4 big dungeons, head in that direction. It absolutely does that. But the point I'm making is if you just head for those dungeons, the game sucks. Because you don't have armor. Because you don't have, you know, better weapons. You didn't take the time to explore and get the plot. I mean, you won't even get the plot of the game if you just focus on the 4 major dungeons. The plot is based around the tiers of the dragon you need to find on the map. You absolutely, bare minimum, should be finding all those tiers before you beat the game, or else you haven't gotten the story, right? So, it's just, to me, it doesn't feel like a Zelda experience. You know what I'm saying? Like a Zelda experience, when you're going through the game, you're going to get the main plot of the game no matter how you play it, right? You're going to have these core experiences of each dungeon, and those are going to be meaningful to you. And then you're going to get a heightened climax where there's probably a big showdown in a final dungeon and a big boss at the end and all of that. And not to say that that's not present in this game, but the game just throws so much at you that everything feels badly paced and very much disjointed. And the funny part about it too is, like, it seems like no matter how you play it, it's not good enough for Nintendo fans. Like, for example, if I beeline for a dungeon, oh, he's just rushing, right? So last night, for example, I wanted to explore the southwestern part of the map. So I did. I actually was jumping between the different mountains. There were different tiers of the dragon that I wanted to hit up because I wanted to get the full story of the game. So I'm doing that. I start reading video comments. Oh my god, Why did he do it like that? All he had to do was ride the road from Point Lookout, and it would have, or Lookout Landing, or whatever it's called. It would have taken him right into the Gerudo Desert. He literally wasted an hour of time traversing the mountains. Why would he just take the main road? And I was like, wait, what? So if I take my time to explore and find things in the game at my own pace, and I'm enjoying the plot line, that's bad. Why didn't I just take the road, right? But if I had taken the road, it would have been, oh, well, you see, he didn't take his time to find the cutscenes, so now he doesn't know the plot of the game because he rushed through it. It's like, what the fuck? So how exactly am I supposed to play it, right? It seems like no matter what I do or how I play the game, it's not good enough for the Nintendo fans. So then why the fuck do I give a fuck about what the Nintendo fans think, right? And the funny part is, again, I actually enjoyed myself last night. The first hour last night was a pain in the ass, because I got into this optional area, and here's what I mean about bloat, okay? There's an optional area that opens up at Point, or Lookout Landing, that leads you into this ginormous cave system. You think it's going to take you like 5 minutes. No, I did it for 45 minutes. I wasn't done yet. It just continued on and on and on. It was like an endless amount of tunnels blocked by boulders. There was a boss down there. There was all this shit. And I got a few resources, and I found a few early game armor pieces down there. But even by the, I'd done it for 45 minutes, and it wasn't done yet. And I'm like, dude, how long is this going to fucking go? I thought this was going to be like a 5-minute thing. And here we go with the bloat. Because who knows what's down here? Is there anything meaningful to my playthrough or not? Come to find out, actually not really. There would have been a third piece of armor I didn't find. And apparently it would have led me to Hyrule Castle. Okay? Which would have been fine. But there's really no reason for me to be there. There's no dungeon there or anything right now. So there's no point and really going there. And a lot of people are saying it's something that people did early on if they wanted to get that armor set, and it helped them before they started finding other armor sets. But I already have other armor sets. Well, how would I know that? You don't know. When a game has so much content and no guidance, you could just stumble upon something late game that you think is interesting, and it's not. It's early game. It's a waste of time. You wasted an hour, right? And I really did. I basically wasted a whole hour last night for the first hour doing this stupid cave. So then after that, I said, forget it. Let's go to other content, right? Let's go find the cutscenes. Let's go do the Tears of the Dragon. And we did all of those, and that was great. It actually fleshed out the story of the game. And then I don't want to give spoilers because there's a critical plot point during the Tears of the Dragon quest line that's really, really important, okay? So without spoiling a major plot point, something really critical happens, and then there's like a race against time. And basically, it was really suspenseful and interesting, and I did it, and I was like, wow, and something really awesome happened at the very, very end of last night's stream. And I was like, wow, that was giant, giant plot development. And I'm glad that I did it, right? So it's kind of like I wasted an entire hour of my stream, and then the second hour was like insane amount of development, exploration. By the way, now I've done every tower in the game, so the whole map is mapped out for me now. So it's kind of like 2 hours of completely conflicted pacing. And do you understand what I'm saying? In one case, I could spend an hour in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and literally get nothing done whatsoever of any point or use. And then I could play another hour and I could turbo mode important stuff, right? I did 2 or 3 Tears of the Kingdom back to back. I hit up all the towers. A critical plot point happened, and now something crazy happened for endgame. And I'm like, whoa, all within another hour. That's not good pacing. It's just not. And the point I'm making, where was the bloat? The bloat was the first hour. My entire first hour last night of streaming Zelda could have been cut out, and nothing would have been missed, and I would have been able to use that hour for something more interesting. And that's the problem. They put too much in the game that is bloat. That doesn't add to anything. When I can skip entire villages because they're just side content in this game, that's bloat. In Breath of the Wild, every village mattered. Every dungeon mattered. Every piece of the content mattered because it was all adding to this big world-building thing, and there were critical plots in each part. In Tears of the Kingdom, half the content seems like it doesn't make a difference. And again, if you're painstakingly taking your time to do it all, because you have unlimited time, unlimited resources, and this is the only game you're playing, then maybe it has some meaning to you, and it doesn't matter if you wasted an hour because you have another 400 hours to play the game. But for other people who live in reality, who don't fucking have unlimited time and resources to enjoy one video game, yeah, I'm angry when I waste an hour of my time because the game didn't explain what was down there and it was a bloated in bullshit. You know, that pisses me off. And there's been many times in this playthrough where there's bloat and there's bullshit instead of meaningful content. That's not good. Okay? Now, by the way, I'm not saying that every video game should be 20 hours long streamlined plot. I'm not saying that, all right? But I'm saying that at least the game should have a guide or a path to do it that way, right? And it doesn't. So, essentially the way I see it is, it's a mixed bag for me. I do really like the game. What are my favorite parts of Tears of the Kingdom? The Tears of the Dragon, like exploring those geoglyphs, seeing those cutscenes. The major dungeons have been great. Like, I've done 3 out of the 4. We're heading to the 4th. I didn't dislike a single major dungeon. I felt like they were well designed, curated to be unique experiences for the gamer. You can do them in different ways in some cases. Like the 3rd major dungeon, I actually did a big shortcut, which was really cool that you can actually do that. The boss fights so far, the major boss fights have been good. Okay, I have no complaints there. And to some extent, the exploration, just like the exploration of Breath of the Wild, I feel like the open world exploration has been some of the neater part of the game. Okay? But, admittedly, a lot of that element has been taken away when you've already been here before. You've already done this map. I mean, where's the real exploration? The underground where it's dark and you can't see half the shit. Or the sky where, sadly, you don't have freedom to really explore because you don't have freedom to fly around. You know, you always have to be reliant on launching yourself up on a tower or finding another way up there, which is very limiting. Now, some people are, oh, well, you should have researched the building and built a fucking vehicle that would infinitely let you fly around up there. Yeah, here's the thing. There's always an answer to every criticism you have for the game, but the answer always results in the following. Spend more time on the bloat of the game, right? Like, for example, yesterday I was in this underground cave and there was this boss. So I'm fighting the boss and it hits me once. Now I have 11 hearts, all right? I don't have like 3 hearts. I have 11 hearts. I've spent a significant amount of time in the game leveling up my health. This boss still insta-kills you, takes 11 hearts with 1 hit. Can you name another Zelda game where a boss takes 11 hearts in 1 hit? Just think about this. No, it's never happened before. They just decided to make it like that in this game. So, what's the solution? I don't understand, because everything I did in this cave up to now was not a problem. Why does this boss insta-kill you? Here's the solution people say to me. Oh, you should have got more hearts. I should have got more hearts. I'm 40 hours into the game. This is not a 10-hour run and I ran into the boss. I'm 40 hours into the game. I've more than tripled to quadrupled the amount of hearts I had at the beginning. Do you understand? I have armor on. That I have some defense on. Right? If the solution is you should have just endlessly grinded and spent more time wasted in the game to level up menial things, that's not a solution. That's a cop-out, and that's basically you trying to shrug off criticism for the game that deserves it. No, there shouldn't be enemies in the game that hit you for 11 hearts. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely preposterous. That shouldn't happen. And the solution shouldn't be spend another 10 hours grinding in the side shrines to level up your hearts more. No, that should not be the answer. That's a bad answer. That's a game design flaw that should be called out. Not just spend even more time in the game you already felt was bloated. That's not a solution. That's a cop-out, okay? But people don't want to hear that. They don't like hearing honest criticism about a game that they're in love with. Sadly, this game is not perfect. It's good. Don't get me wrong. There's real high highs in the game. Last night, it's hard for me to not spoil the plot point of what happened last night because actually I loved it. That moment that happened, I was like, wow, that was really neat. It was like a culmination of a lot of work that I did in the game, and it panned out to something really neat at the end, you know? That's one of the best things you could do in a video game is when you spend a lot of time, all right, on something. When you spend a lot of time on it, right? And you're investing a lot of effort. And then basically at the end of that time and effort, there's a big rewarding culmination at the end. That's one of the best things that can happen in a video game. And that happened last night. And I was like, dude, that's gonna be one of the moments that resonates in my head of this playthrough at the end. When I beat it, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna remember that moment. That's cool. That's gonna be one of my big takeaways, right? And the game has those big takeaways. So it's not a horrible game. This game, I'm criticizing it, but I want you to understand I am really liking it. I am. But it definitely is not a game for someone who is not just focused on it. You know what I mean? It's just not. They didn't design it like that. It's like, well, you won't get instant killed, stomped by enemies if you spend another 20 hours grinding for hearts. What? No, that's the opposite of what I want to hear as an answer. That's literally like that. I'm already telling you I'm 40 hours in and I feel like the game has bloat, and I feel like more meaningful stuff had happened in the 40 hours I played, and your solution was spend 20 more hours grinding. Like, no. Anyway, and it's funny because right now I see certain people in the chat completely disagreeing with me, which is fine. But then there's other people who are disagreeing with me and then completely write off my opinion. Oh, you see, he's wrong. All right, here's the thing. All right, and here's something that I've definitely learned. All right, in life, you have to at least try to see from another person's perspective. You have to, okay? Because as I've gotten older, what I've realized is that when I was younger, I used to be a very opinionated person, even here as a YouTuber, right? And my problem with that is I used to say, it's my way or the highway. I would have a very strong opinion about something. I really liked it or I really hated it. And that opinion was fact for me. It wasn't like, that's my opinion. That's fact. And God forbid anyone ever disagree with me on my opinion. Like, that's horrible that someone would disagree with me because I'm in the right. And I should show everyone the way, the truthful way of how, you know what I mean? And, sadly, I feel like a lot of people are still kind of stuck in that mindset like I used to be in. Today, if someone disagrees with me on something, what I try to do is try to understand the perspective, even if I don't agree with it. And even if maybe I can't really fully logically put myself into that perspective they're in, I still try to respect the fact that they have a feeling about something. Do you understand what I'm saying? And excuse me. That's why when people are coming at me and saying, you're absolutely wrong, Zelda is great and here's why, and I'm like, well, I agree it's good. I don't think it's the best game ever made like a lot of people are saying, but I definitely like it a lot. But I think that there's flaws and I have the right to criticism. And some people are like, no, you don't, because everything you're saying is just factually wrong. You're telling me it's factually wrong that it could be unfair feeling that you just lost 11 hearts to 1 hit. You don't think it's factually, like, there's a problem with the fact that the answer to the problem is you should have just spent lots more time invested in the game. Like, what? I just don't get that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it drives me nuts. If my feeling is that the game has bloat, how could I be factually wrong if it's a feeling? Right? But here's the thing, is that there's always going to be people who disagree, and that's okay. And I've learned to get a lot more understanding of the fact that I'm different from other people. My opinions very much, a lot of cases can differ from other people. And I don't get upset about it anymore. I'm not going to sit here and rant and say, well, you're all wrong for disagreeing with me or whatever. I'm just going to try to relay my own opinion and my perspective, okay? From my perspective, Tears of the Kingdom is a good game. It's a great game, actually, because the highs that it has are quite good. Like I said, so far, the 3 major dungeons I've done, I've enjoyed every single one. A lot of the exploration has been very fun, and discovery has been very fun. And I really liked the Tears of the Dragon plotline. Alright, that's the main story plotline of the game, and I feel like that's critical to the game. You absolutely, if you're playing this game, should experience that. If you didn't do it, you did miss out on a major part of the game that, should be experienced. So those are my highs, but for all of that, there's, what I feel is a lot of menial exploration that doesn't feel as meaningful in this one, because you're discovering locations that literally don't have really much to do with the plot at all. They're just there for a throwback connection to the first game, which makes them feel kind of a waste of time, which is a shame, because in the first game, these places are very meaningful, and this one, they're not. Same thing with the gameplay mechanics. Major complaint of everyone in the first game, we didn't like the fact that everything's constantly breaking and all of that. So what did they do? They, double down on it. They totally made it, just as bad, if not worse, than this one. It's like they just ignored the feedback they got from common gamers saying we don't want a system where everything's constantly breaking. It's just too tedious and annoying. They just doubled down on it. It made it even worse, in my opinion. Not to say, again, that it breaks the game, but it certainly makes it more painstaking and tedious to get through. And the whole idea that, the difference between this one and the first one is this new hand mechanic where you can combine and do puzzles. I like the puzzles. I've actually really enjoyed a lot of the puzzles and things, but there is some wonkiness to the physics of it. There's some problems with the graphics too, where the graphics kind of chop up in certain situations, or the camera is really bad in certain combat situations. Well, what's really annoying me, which I called out a bunch of times and I always forget to criticize, a lot of the times when you're doing the floating hand mechanic, you're grabbing items, you're trying to position them to combine them or whatever, the camera won't go to the right spacing, so you can't see it. It's right here in front of you, but the camera's here, I just want to see the item. Why is the camera stuck? So I can't tell where I'm positioning something. It's definitely something that should be fixed or criticized or improved. And, you know, maybe in future games, the thing is that every Zelda, they change it. So maybe in the next Zelda, they won't even have this puzzle mechanic, in which case there's really no opportunity to improve it because it's kind of already only for one game or whatever. I don't know. I would think maybe they would use it in another game only because, man, it must have taken them a tremendous amount of time to design this physics and puzzle engine, right? Like, it's very elaborate. It's very complex. It's one of the more unique things I've seen in a video game. And in reality, yeah, it has added a lot to my playthrough where I enjoy some of the ingenuity of the puzzles and things that they've designed in the game and the ways to do stuff. It seems like there's so many different ways to do things in this game, you know? And that's cool. That's a really well thought out thing about the game. So, I don't know. Like I said, I really still am liking the game, but at this point, you know, I'm 40 hours in, and it's like, well, what's left in the game? I could fully explore the underground. I could fully explore the sky. Is there a point? From what I'm to understand, there's one more major cutscene that I need to get for the plot, and then it's really to see the rest of the game. It's the fourth dungeon, and then like the final dungeon at the end of the game. Yeah, there's other stuff, but it's all side stuff, so it doesn't really even add to the main plot. So does it matter? The answer is no, it doesn't. If I was trying to purposefully make a 100-hour playthrough, I could put another 50, well, I guess after another 10 hours, it'll probably be about another 40 hours of gameplay on here. But is it really going to matter? And it's funny that everyone says, oh, you can upgrade your armor, and you can do this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm at the end of the game. I didn't need it. So what was it there for? Right? I just, you know, it really does kind of make me scratch my head. Because I don't know how someone could play the game and not understand what I say when I say there's blow. I just don't get it. But again, if maybe this is the game that you sat down and you were just so immersed in the world of Zelda and you couldn't wait, you were waiting 6 years painstakingly, when is this game coming out? Because I love Breath of the Wild so much and I can't wait for the next iteration. It comes out and everything you feel is fan service for you. Like every little town, every little tweak, every little thing, you know, was made just for you specially. And you're really enjoying every moment of it and it's the only thing you're playing and you're having a great time. I get it. Like I said, I feel like if that's the case, if you have that feeling of unlimited time, unlimited resources, and you could sit and enjoy it and it's all you're doing, this is probably the best open world game ever made. That's for you. But for me, that's not what I was going into it even wanting or expecting, because I knew that there were other games on the horizon in June that I was going to want to play for you guys. And I knew this is exactly what was going to happen, that at some point we were going to hit a series of time where I wasn't playing it a lot. And now it's like, well, do I really want to spend my time taking my time and make this a 3-month playthrough? Or do I want to just streamline it and try to get to these elements and continue on with progress, right? So, yeah, like to me, I can understand for sure everyone out there who's praising the game. All right, I get it. What I don't understand is why my opinion is not valid. I'm being honest now. Like, just because I'm different doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It just means that I'm trying to tell you from a different perspective how this game can be viewed. From my perspective, it is a very good game, but it's a game that leaves a lot to be desired because the pacing's bad, because there's too much extraneous content that doesn't really have meaning, and it seems like everyone's solution, whenever I come into something that I'm not liking about the game, is, well, you should have spent more time on doing it. But my criticism is that the game already takes too much time, and your answer is spend more time. That's not an answer. That just reinforces my criticism of the game, yet you're saying my criticism is invalid. That's what I don't understand. And I haven't seen a single person counter that besides, well, you should have went into this game with the mindset that you need to spend 100 hours. No, 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 no. No. Because in reality, the story of the game isn't 100 hours long. You understand? It's not. It would be one thing if the game was like, here's 12 things you have to do on the map before you beat it, and it takes 100 hours to do all 12 things. Then fair enough. But no, no, no. There's 4 dungeons, and then there's the finale, and then, of course, there's the Tears of the Kingdom memories. Those are the real focuses of the game. Everything else in this world is extra. Literally every other thing is extra. And you can beat the game without ever having touched upon any of that. You know? And then, if I criticize that, that's not fair. Yes, it is. People need to stop living in that one tunnel vision situation. Because, again, I used to be that. I used to be that kind of a person where I was tunnel vision. And if you didn't agree with me, you're wrong. All right? All I want is for people to respect my opinion, whether or not you agree with it. Just respect the fact that there could be people out there who aren't in love with this game simply because they feel like it's too much. You know, it's 2023. We've all got a lot of stuff going on in our lives. We've all got a lot of stuff going on where it shouldn't be expected that every game, for me to enjoy it, needs to be a 100-hour investment experience. You know, it's funny because someone earlier in the stream chat said this comment. They said, well, the reason that people are criticizing your playthrough is because in the past you would spend so much time doing all the meaningful content of a game and it would be a full-on playthrough, and this one you're not doing that. And I'm like, dude, I spent 40 hours in this game already, and I still got at the minimum another 10 to even see the end, and you're telling me I didn't spend enough time in it. That's what kills me. Because previously, games weren't this long. Do you understand? It wasn't until last console gen that games this lengthy even started to become possible on consoles. And now that they are, it seems like every game is willing to throw its hat into the ring. Let's make a 80 to 100 hour game, and it's like, but why are we having every game be that experience? Every once in a blue moon, you could get a great game that's maybe 100 hours. We don't need all these games to be this long. What it does, it takes away. It does. When you have that much, and especially a game like Zelda, again, if Zelda said you must complete these 12 things to beat the game, and by the way, they take 100 hours. Fair enough, then it's a 100-hour game. But Tears of the Kingdom is not a 100-hour game. It's about a 50-hour game, maybe 40 if you streamline it and know exactly what to do, with 50 hours of extra content on top of that if you feel like doing it. But then, if you feel like you're having difficulty with the game or not enjoying it as much, the answer shouldn't be, well, you should have invested more time on the extra content. No. No. The base core game should have been better and explained itself better and had less stressful situations to be an enjoyable game if you don't wish to partake in the optional content. Do you understand? You know what I mean? Like, to give you some perspective, and I know I'm an old school gamer and a lot of people won't understand this reference. Let's say you're playing a classic Final Fantasy game. Usually when you're playing a classic Final Fantasy game, you can play through the plot at a normal pace and beat the game just playing the plot. But usually there's content along the way that's extra. It's your choice if you wish to do that content or not. And if you do and you invest time in a side quest or side exploration or side dungeon, usually there's a challenging boss at the end, a super boss. And if you beat that super boss, you'll get a big reward, like a rare item or weapon or something that will now make you more powerful and make you like steamroll through the main game, correct? In Zelda, it's not like that. You understand? In this game, it's kind of like the side stuff is just there and you should be doing it anyway. But what if I'm just trying to play through the story? Well, too bad. You should have been doing all the side content too. Well, maybe I don't want to. Maybe I don't find enjoyment in it. Maybe I got other things I need to do and I just want to enjoy the main quest line, right? And the answer shouldn't be you should have dumped even more hours into the game to do the side stuff. That's never a solution. If you're having struggle or you're not enjoying the main stuff in the game, the answer is you should have dumped more time into it. That's not the answer. Sorry, it's just not. It should, you know, it's what I mean, like side content, and it's optional and meaningful if you do it, if you really love the game, versus side content and it's just there, that's what you're doing to play the game, just to be necessary to advance through the game. I don't know. Anyway, I've now talked about Tears of the Kingdom for like 40 minutes. So I could literally go on forever and ever and ever and ever about this. I could. What's funny, I'm not even kidding you right now, Super Mario Sunshine fan says, the only side content that's basically necessary is the Great Fairy armor upgrades, which you didn't do. Yes, I did. First of all, the game never points them out. You have to find them on your own, because they're based on a side quest through a stable, which never explains that that's what it is. Once you find it, the first thing you find out is, oh, you need to gather random components through random combat in the world to upgrade your armor. I had played like 30 plus hours by the time I found the first Great Fairy, and guess what? I didn't even have the components to upgrade a single piece of armor. So what's the solution? Spend more time in the game, grinding and doing combat, trying to find gathering items, gathering quests. Like, what are you talking about? No, that should not be the solution. That literally should not be the solution, to dump more time into the game I'm telling you is too bloated to begin with. That's never the solution. Elden Ring did get this criticism, Evilan. People just didn't listen to it. They wrote off my criticism of Elden Ring. By the final third of Elden Ring, the entire game seems bloated, seems way too repetitive, and runs out of original ideas. I outright said that in my review and said it's not a Game of the Year slam hit. It's not the best FromSoft game ever. In fact, I thought Dark Souls 1 was better than Elden Ring. But you're funny, no one remembers that, right? No one remembers that. That I actually 100% criticized Elden Ring. No one remembers because they want to only selectively remember what they want. So that's the funny part too. Like, I can't make people stop being prejudiced against me. I can't make people actually listen to me. You have to listen for yourself and be a logical human and stop listening with the intention that you just want to make me look bad. I've outright criticized other giant games like this as well, and people didn't listen to that criticism either. Okay? Anyway, in short, in summary, I do like Tears of the Kingdom. I just don't feel it's flawless. I think that it's a great game, but I feel like it's bloated and the pacing's bad. At this point, I'm actually happy that I'm going to start heading into the direction of the finale, that we're almost done with it. Yeah, by the end of this game, I probably will never have fought one of those optional three-headed dragon bosses. I probably will not have seen most of the optional dungeons and content. I probably will never go visit the Great Deku Tree of the Lost Woods or half of the underground content. And guess what? I don't need to, because it has nothing to do with the game. It's just there for the sake of having more content that doesn't add to the actual experience of the plot. So I don't care. I just want to see the end of the game at this point. I've already spent 40 hours in it. I know it's probably going to be another 10 to beat it. That's enough for Zelda for me. I don't need to have a 100-hour experience with Zelda. I just don't. Especially when I'm playing other games that have my interest now. And I'd much rather play them. Just being honest. Like right now, if you were to ask me, would you rather play Zelda, Diablo, Final Fantasy, or Street Fighter? Probably I'd say Street Fighter #1 because I've been addicted to this game for the month. And then I'd probably say, yeah, probably Zelda and Diablo are about equal. Right now, I want to play more Final Fantasy 16 because I'm curious what the game's going to go. I don't know if it'll stay like that. But, you know what I mean? Like, it's basically like the back burner game balanced with other stuff for me. This is a game that, again, if it had released at a time of the year when there was nothing else going on, and I played it a little bit more, I probably would have liked it more, right? Or, if it was a game that was more streamlined, didn't have as much of this open world bloat, rehashing stuff from the first game has no meaning in this game, you know, probably would have been better. I don't know. Play goals, does this mean you like Breath of the Wild more than this one? Well, I'd like to reserve that judgment till I beat it. What I'll tell you is this: the gameplay mechanics of this one are better, but I feel like because of the fact that you're in the same world and there's so much bloat and nothing really feel like in the first game, everywhere you went, you were like a sense of wonder and awe. I discovered a new thing. Wow, Kakariko Village is in this one? That's cool. Ooh, the Lost Woods. What's the new version of the Lost Woods in this one? Look at this. I could ride a dragon and get a cool thing. You know, there was all this stuff in that first game. And in this game, it's kind of like, well, you've already seen the dragons. You've already seen all the locations. You've already seen all of it. There's a little bit of a different twist. Where's the real wonder? Solving the physics puzzles in this one. Building things and solve. That's the wonder in this game. What's the creative way to use the physics in the building to solve puzzles and get around challenges? But outside of that, you've kind of like already seen all this. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that a lot of that wonderment's lost in this one. And does that mean it's worse? I don't know. Let me beat the game. Let me actually finish it because we're getting close to the end. Let me finish it, and then I'll honestly give you my summarized opinion once I beat it. But right now, yeah, I'll be honest. I might have liked Breath of the Wild more than this one. We'll have to see by the time that we're all said and done. I don't know right now. I'd like to actually, get to the end and see how it all ends and stuff like that. Okay. All right. That went way longer than I even intended. Let's get to shout outs because we're running out of time. Okay. So, a bunch of super chats came in, all from the same person. Someone called Fallendiculous. Oh my God. Fallendiculous. Get it? Fallendiculous, like a phallus and a dick. Fallendiculous. Well, that's a really hilarious name. So their first super chat, they say, I hope one day you'll go back and do a Tears of the Kingdom redemption run when your gaming schedule is less busy. I think you would really like it if you felt less pressure to make X amount of progress every stream. You do realize that will never happen. Like, when in my life will I be able to sit down and say, I have unlimited time to play this game? This is my job. You understand? Unlike anyone else where playing the video game is the thing outside of the job. for enjoyment to unwind for the job. This is the job for me. So there's always going to be me balancing things with other stuff. There's always going to be me having time constraints of a stream. That literally can't happen. And I think that's one of the points I'm making, is when every game now is becoming 40 plus hours and every game has giant open worlds with optional content that's full of bloat that's not essential to the plot, this is what happens, is that you can't really fully enjoy those style of games. It's just not for a streamer or content creator like myself. You understand? I'm happy that I'm still able to enjoy the game as much as I have, because I really feel like if I skipped it entirely, I would have regretted it. So I'm happy that I'm playing the game and enjoying it for what it is. I really am. And I want to say thank you to those who've been respectful of my opinions, and thank you to those who are understanding of why I can't play it at, tons. A lot of people, oh, every streamer already beat this game. Yeah, take a look at how they beat it. When it came out, they literally played it for 2 weeks straight and beat it. Me, I was balancing a million other playthroughs like I always do, and like I say, I'm the jack of all trades, the master of none. I'm not just going to sit here and drop everything to play the same game for 2 weeks, So, thank you for those who are understanding, but I don't ever see myself being able to just sit down and be like, hey, I could just sit here and play Tears of the Kingdom non-stop for 100 hours for 2-3 weeks straight and never have an interruption, and everything's fine and no one's going to complain and we're good to go. I don't think so. How would that ever happen, right? Okay. I got another super chat from Fallon Dickolis. Maybe a year or two down the road, you can play Tears of the Kingdom like you played your recent Skyrim and Oblivion playthroughs. Well, see, that's a different animal entirely. You're talking about not playing it as an ongoing role playthrough, but more of like a chill stream deal, extended period. I mean, that could possibly work. The thing is, I'm already kind of playing it as a chill stream. You understand? Like, that's kind of how I've already tackled it. And people already are like, why are you playing this? Do other stuff. You see? I really feel like the Bethesda games, for some reason, they resonate with my audience. Whether it's an Elder Scrolls game, whether it's a Fallout game, they find a way to resonate with my audience, and there's a big fan base for that likes to tune into my streams of it. With Zelda, I just don't feel that. And the weird thing is, I love Zelda. It's not like I don't like the game, but I just don't feel like people who watch my content have that same kind of connection with Nintendo as they do with Bethesda for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's because my earlier playthroughs were a lot of Bethesda stuff. I don't know. Phil Dickolis did another super chat. Tears of the Kingdom is definitely bloated. The bloat is higher quality than virtually every other open world game. That, arguably, you're correct. I'm literally not saying that the content of the game is bad. You ever noticed that, right? I haven't said, hey man, it's so bad. I just said it's extra, and it's not necessary. Bloat doesn't necessarily mean bad content. It just means so much content that you feel swollen and overburdened. That's really my best description of Tears of the Kingdom. I feel kind of overburdened with the amount of content that they have put into this game for me. Fallon Dickolis did another super chat. Says bloat isn't necessarily a negative word. And there you go. I have to agree with that. I'm not saying, when I say bloat, everyone immediately thinks this is some kind of a toxic negative comment. It's not. It's, just think of it this way. Right? You sit down at a restaurant to eat a delicious meal. They feed you course after course after course. Now, there's the main course. That's the most delicious part. It's super filling and amazingly delicious and amazing. You're glad you had it. But then there's all these other things. There's appetizer. There's palate cleansers coming in. There's bread, delicious bread with butter over here. You want to partake in that too. But what happens is you're partaking so much in the meal, you're bloated now. And you got to deal with that after you've feasted. And that's kind of how I feel like. There's great stuff in this game everywhere, in every direction. The problem is, by the time that you get through it all, you'll feel so bloated because it took so long to get through, right? Now, what if you're someone who's on a time constraint? You have an appointment after dinner you have to get to. But instead of them feeding you the delicious entree that you're waiting for, they keep bringing you appetizers, palate cleansers, bread, and filler, and they're not giving you the main course. I need to get to the main course or I'm going to be late for my appointment. That's how it feels playing Tears of the Kingdom for me. Not everyone's going to feel like that at all. A lot of people will feel completely different. That's how I felt the whole playthrough almost. Seriously. You keep feeding me good things. I'm not unhappy with the good things you're feeding me, but you keep feeding me good things and not giving me what I came for, the main course. and I need to go. I gotta leave. Get it? What I will say is this, just thanks to anyone who respects it, my opinion. You don't have to agree. I'm trying to be very respectful to everyone who disagrees with me. Listen, you have the right to do that. Absolutely you do. If you love the game, you love the game. I like it. I don't love it. You know? But if you love the game, I respect your opinion. I certainly believe that you're probably in a very different position in life than I am, that you can sit there and enjoy it at length as much as you have. I'm glad you did. And maybe you're right. Maybe if I was a different person in a different perspective, I absolutely positively would be liking the game more. But that's my perspective. I'm sitting in a fine dining restaurant and they just keep feeding me small finger foods rather than feeding me the entree, but I've got to go. And I'm enjoying my stay, but my God, I'm getting pressure. My people are texting, blowing up my phone. You got to go, man. You got an appointment to get to. And I'm like, but I'm still eating my delicious Zelda meal. It's not ending yet. I'm 40 hours in. The meal continues. And people are like, no, move on. There's other things outside the restaurant you need to experience. Like, no, the meal, it's still coming. I swear there's a big Goron steak coming. I need to eat the Goron steak. Okay. Yeah. Charles is tapas. They keep feeding me tapas foods and not bringing me the main course. Where's the main course? Right? Alright, guys, it's time to end the show before we go too late. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, some people at the very least now at least understand my perspective on Tears of the Kingdom and will hopefully respect it. I'm not saying you have to agree with it. I'm just saying I hope you respect it. Because I've been in a lot of disrespect recently in regards to the playthrough. It's like, I don't remember playing the game and really slamming it and saying it's bad. You know, I don't necessarily remember any of these things that people are reacting to in a way that it feels like it should be actually get this level of vitriol against me. Just because I'm saying I'm not in love with the game and it's a masterpiece like a lot of people have said, I don't get that. Why am I not entitled to my own opinion? It just seems like there's a lot of nastiness on the internet right now. And it is what it is. You know, you sign up for that when you're a content creator, but just abnormally for this playthrough, which is really, really weird in my opinion. So hopefully now you at very least understand where I'm coming from. And understand that as I play this game and I continue, I'm going to be focusing on main story development and finishing it. And I'm pretty much, now that I'm going to do the rest of, you know, the Tears of the Dragons plotline. Once that's done, that's pretty much where the side content ends with me. And I'm going to do my absolute best to continue, you know, with the playthrough and wrap up the main story. So. Alright. Just Norlowski, enjoy your ban. Because I'm not going to put up with bullshit slander like that. I'm serious. Literally, I just talked an entire podcast about my Zelda experience. He goes, oh, Phil doesn't enjoy Zelda at all. Alright, goodbye. You want to spread misinformation, you can do it somewhere else, not on my stream. Thanks. Instead of being an asshole and saying falsehoods that then people will believe and start talking junk. So I'm not going to put up with your bullshit anymore. Enjoy your ban. Nice try, though. Because he didn't know that I was here. He didn't know that I'd come back from the bathroom. And he's like, oh, I know. I'll say something when he's not here. I'm so sly. Yeah, you're sly, all right. Oh, it's definitely worth banning. In fact, I should do worse.